So, Aiemann, your ascent through the bantamweight division continues with this. Obviously, Chito Vera has been around for a long time, fought some of the best, has records and things like that. So how important are you looking at this fight as a step to where you want to be?
Yeah, of course. You know, I asked for Marlon after my last fight because I want to keep moving forward. I want to keep the momentum going. And I think he's a great matchup because, you know, you got to win the fights in the UFC, but you have to look good doing it. And, you know, to look good doing it, you need a really good dancing partner. And I think Marlon is someone who always puts on great fights. And I'm hoping that me and him have a historic moment this weekend. And it's a pleasure to share the octagon with someone who's been in the rankings for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of tape on him out there and everything, but I think this is the longest layoff he's had since coming to the UFC. Okay. So what kind of like adjustments and things like that are you expecting? Do you have to prepare for something different, or in his game, is there not that much he can change no matter how long he takes off?
No, I think the layoff is because he wants to improve on his game. You know, his last couple of fights, I'm expecting the most dangerous, vicious, energetic, explosive Marlon Vera we've ever seen. I've prepared for him to be the best version of himself, and you know, I'm a big believer that in MMA you really hit your prime, you know, between the ages of 33 and 35. That's what I think, you know, and I think he's 32 years old. You know, he's got the funding, he's got the money, he's got the connections, he's got the years of experience. So I prepared myself for a war. You know, I don't want it to have to be a battle of attrition. You know, I would love to outplay him. That's my goal, is to outplay him, outclass him. But if it has to be a battle of attrition, I want to be the last man standing.
And he's got one of the best chins we've seen inside the octagon. So we've seen all these fighters not be able to finish him. What type of statement would it be towards your quest for a title shot if you can do that?
Yeah, I feel like if I get the finish, you know, being the first one to do so, and he's fought, you know, David Figueiredo put him down for the first time. You know, Rob Font hit him hundreds of times. I watched the Rob Font Marlon Vera video a few times. And, you know, he's a very tough guy, but he's been in a lot of wars, and chins don't improve. They get worse over time. And, you know, I have, you know, some of the best defensive skills in the UFC history, and I'm hopefully going to show that defense wins fights, and that you know, not taking too much damage unnecessarily, it can really pay off in your career.
And it kind of felt like when he fought Jose Aldo earlier this year that maybe would be his last fight, but we saw it last weekend, him going in there and like laying the gloves down. So now that it seemingly is official, unless he comes back again, what does it mean to you that you were the last person to fight Jose Aldo inside this octagon? I
think it makes the win even more historic. You know, him missing the weight, me getting dropped, coming back and winning the way I did. You know, today UFC Canada released a video of George St. Pierre and Firas during the elbow section of the fight, when I was landing the elbows, what they were saying, how they were reacting, the emotions they brought out. You know, made for a really historic moment. And then now him officially retiring and never coming back. I think it's a fight that in the future, many more people are going to watch when they look back at his career. They're going to want to see what was the last fight of his career, you know. And I've thanked a lot of people for the success, for my success in that on that fight. You know, there's so much love and support from the Montrealers, the Quebecois, the Canadians, my friends, my family. I always thank my parents, but there's one man I haven't taken the chance to personally thank in public, so I want to take a moment to thank my father-in-law, Edmund Moralian. You know, he's a very successful entrepreneur, and he's got a big heart, and his love and understanding of what it takes to be successful allows me to take the risks I need to take and travel when I need to travel for training and for fight camp. And he lets my wife leave work early so that she can take care of the kids when I need to, you know, make things happen for the fight game.
Aiemann over here. How's it going?
How's it going? Very good, you?
First and foremost, how happy are you, your buddy Mandel Nallo in the UFC. I know that was a big one for the team because sort of what I've heard over the years, you know, he's one of the most talented guys in there. It was just about the opportunity. That must even give you a boost going into this fight, just knowing that, you know, you guys are on the right path at TriStar.
We're 36 young. Guys, it's Unk season. Guys, it's Unk season, okay? Dana White didn't love the age, but you cannot deny the product, okay? We want to be undeniable. Like I was telling you guys, I don't think the prime age is 25 in MMA, you know? It's not the NHL, it's not the NFL. You know, you have to, there are so many facets in MMA. You have to be a striker, you have to learn to be a wrestler, you have to learn to be a grappler. And to get to a mastery type level on all three aspects of fighting, it takes years of experience and years of training, dedication, and devotion. And I think Mandel Nalo has a very unique striking style, and with Jalen Turner retiring, I think Mandel Nalo has the best reach in the lightweight division right now in the UFC. And he's a guy who has 100% finish rate when he wins, literally 100%. Actually, even, win or lose, the fights are finished. So I think it's a really good pickup for the UFC. He's not going to disappoint, and he's going to garner tons and tons of fans.
Let's talk about you. Mike mentioned it there. Chito Vera, hell of a chin. He's been in
Yep.
there with some of the best. Does the game plan for you change a bit just because of the fact that this is a guy that is pretty tough to take out? Maybe you don't want to overexert it. Like, is that
Yeah.
something you look at when you're strategizing for him?
Yeah, definitely. When I was getting ready to fight Aldo, one of my coaches, Conrad Pla, he told me, with a guy like Aldo, the fight's going to start hard, it's going to get harder, and then all of a sudden it will be easy. And it came to fruition. And, they've seen a lot of fights, my coaching staff, and they size up the fighters pretty well. And with Marlon, it's not the same case at all. It's actually literally the opposite. The fight only gets harder. And the fight doesn't stop getting harder until the last bell rings. So that's what I prepared for Saturday night.
And obviously sharing this card with Jasmine Jasvicius, who's also big opportunity. She wins, a bit of an older fighter, but she gets the win. She's going to be in a good spot. Similar situation with you, like older fighter, fighting someone, a former title challenger as well. Like it must be kind of cool for both of you to kind of represent the older fighters that are making their mark in the division.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, I don't consider her old. I feel like she's not that old, and I feel like she still looks good and she's still improving. I don't feel like, when I watch Jazz fight, I don't feel like she has slowed down, And like when we use the word old, I think we should only use it when fighters start to degrade, not fighters age. And I would like to say something about Manon too, because Manon did her training camp with us, so I know puts in a little awkward spot. I'm trying to be captain of Team Canada over here, and then we're training Manon Furio to beat Jazz. It kind of makes a little bit of an awkward situation, So for this fight, I'm rooting for Manon, because she came to train with us, and she's very dedicated, very devoted, very disciplined fighter. And her too, I think she's 35 years old, but I don't feel like she's slowed down. Shevchenko is a beast in herself. She's a veteran with a lot of experience and very well-rounded. And we worked on parts of Manon's game, and hopefully she's successful this weekend.
They just booked the bantamweight title fight for December. That's your division.
Yeah.
What do you think Petr Yan's going to have to bring differently for the rematch this time around? I know their first fight was a few years ago, but what do you make of that rematch? Really exciting one in your weight class.
Yeah, I think Petr Yan deserves it. I think he proved himself to have the match, and I think he was talking about something interesting that happened in the first fight, Merab. He couldn't throw right hands. And then he said, I look at the stats, I barely used my right hand. So maybe his hand was broken going into the fight, or he had some kind of injury in there. So if I was Merab's team, I wouldn't expect the fight to go the same way it went the first time around. And I think he's got a good chance to put on a great fight against Merab. Merab is definitely a puzzle. He's hard to beat, but you see that he does get stunned and he does get hurt. So there's always a possibility. And I absolutely love Merab's humility when he beat Corey Sanhagen, and he was in the octagon and he was talking, and they're giving him compliments, and he said, what, I can lose at any moment. It can happen to me. I can get hit and go down. And I'm proud that the bantamweight division has a champion like that shows the humility. He reminds me of George St. Pierre in that sense. So, much respect to both guys, and I'm excited to come up there and face them. If Merab keeps clearing the guys ahead of me, there might be a route for me for a title fight beating Marlon Vera in 2026. Who knows?
Yeah. And just last one from me, you're a great follow on Twitter, and one of the things I love is that you're very outspoken on some of the issues we have in this country politically. Yes. How important is it to use your platform and, again, not like you're an expert or anything, but just to speak out on things that are going on? Because I know in this day and age, a lot of people are afraid to talk about some of the things that are going on in Canadian politics.
What's funny is that a lot of people say I'm not Canadian because, my parents come from Lebanon. But if you ask my mom says she's Canadian. Canada saved my parents' kind of lives during this when the Civil War broke out, and my parents came here illegally. And I was born and raised in Canada. I grew up in their education system. I played on the soccer teams and football teams and the community teams of this country, and it raised me, and I'm proud to be Canadian. And when I fight, I want people to know that I am Canadian. I represent Canada. I represent the Canada that puts family first, that puts community first, that wants to take care of each other, that's safe for children, safe for families, and people, they grow up here and they have access to everything they need to be successful in life. And I feel like Canada has kind of lost its way a little bit. So Twitter is the only platform I kind of talk about it. And I feel like Canada has the potential to be so great and so rich. And I feel like we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with the management, or the government is kind of like holding us back for some reason, certain ways. I don't know why, but I think Canada could be a much better place than it is right now.
Aiemann, right here, just a quick
Yeah.
one. I don't want to keep harping on this age theme, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on. Don't I look good? Don't I look pretty good for this age?
Better than I do. I got 10 years on you. That having been said, we used to have the complaint that you weren't active enough, you weren't fighting
Yeah.
enough to really get the notice that you deserved. In hindsight, has that almost worked in your favor because you don't have the mileage and now you're peaking?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, like it wasn't done on purpose in a way, but it could have been a good thing. You know, there's that story of the Chinese farmer. You know, like you don't know if something is good or bad until years later, until fruition. Because in the near term, it may seem bad, maybe, but in a few years, when you look back, it was actually something that's good. You know, so big theme for this training camp for me was I put my faith in God, but I work like it's all up to me. You know, so I don't know what the outcome's gonna be, but as long as I perform my best on Saturday, nothing's gonna matter.
Best luck.
Thank you.
Just one more, Aiemann,
Yep.
going off what you said there.
Yeah.
Marab's being, running through this division. Seems like
Yes.
he wants to fight in March after
Yeah.
December. So, like, are you rooting for him to keep that belt? Because,
Yeah.
your turn could come much quicker if he keeps up this pace.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not rooting for him in a disrespectful way to Peter Yan, but like he's doing half the job for me. You know what I mean? Like I gotta work my way up, but he's also in a way working his way down, right? So if he beats Peter Yan, like who's next? He's not gonna fight Sean O'Malley again. No disrespect to Sean O'Malley, but like now you're 0-2 against Marab for the belt. It would be weird to give you a third shot, right? So, maybe he gets Umar or Batista,
Yeah.
and then who?
Yeah.
Maybe me.
Feel like Batista, if he wins, Umar, he doesn't seem like he, wants to do that rematch.
Yeah,
either,
maybe
so-
Marab doesn't want to do it, but
Yeah,
in the end, also UFC has a big say, right? And the UFC can back up the dump chunk of cash at his house and drop millions of dollars. Who knows? You know what I mean? And supposedly Pay is gonna go up with the Paramount deal, so maybe they can sweeten the deal for Marab, and then he can just keep picking these guys apart at the very top, and I'm gonna be picking them up on the bottom, and then maybe meet maybe end of the year, mid-year. I don't know.
Yeah. He's been on such a great run. When you watch him as through the eyes of an opponent, do you
Yeah.
see a guy who is beatable for you?
Yeah, I definitely see that he's beatable. I think like the world, the MMA fans of the world should really respect Corey Sandhagen. The performance he put that night is incredible. If you were to lose, that is how you lose. You gave it your all. You stayed focused. You never got discouraged. His corner did a good job. They didn't take no crap from him. They told him, like, you got to go out there. You got to put it on. No backing up. You got to keep going forward. I absolutely loved it. They didn't give him an inch. They didn't give him an inch to be scared or to fight without courage. Or they forced him to step his game up and to keep it at his peak. And he held that for 5 rounds and clipped Marab at the end. Hats off to both men. I really think bantamweight division is the epitome of MMA. We have the best fighters in the world. And, because maybe we're a little lighter, we don't knock each other out so easily, so we get more of a showing. The skills really get deeper. So, I'm proud of both guys. They really put on a display. That's how you win and that's how you lose. Like, if you were to lose, that's the most honorable way. Yep. Thank you, guys. I really, really appreciate it.